Hey, good morning to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. We have some important things to talk about here, and then I have to continue packing up my rental vehicle. I have a nice Dodge 1500, and remember, we don't have the Chevy Tahoe anymore, so I rent vehicles now when needed, and that is all thanks to our wonderful patrons that support our work. So let's get rid of me. I'll come back on in a little bit, at least my face and my messy hair. Hey, that's what it looks like when you're up late and get up early and you're tracking these storms and whatever. I don't care. The main point is to educate you on what's happening. And in this situation here, really going to talk about the field mission coming up. You know, this is all happening very quickly. Remember last year with Michael, we only had 4 days from the first advisory until landfall. And now, with what will eventually be Barry in the Gulf, another quick fuse system. So just to reorient you here, it started from a complex of thunderstorms up here over portions of the plains and moved south and east with time. That vorticity, the energy in the atmosphere, now it's sitting out over the Gulf of Mexico where there is plenty of energy available. So let's take a look at what we have. The potential tropical cyclone product or standard or protocol, whatever you want to call it, was implemented recently within the last couple of years, I guess it is. And this is a way to initiate advisories before a tropical depression has formed. So it's a very high confidence that this will develop. And so now they can issue advisories and the related watches and warnings that are associated with that. So, tropical cyclone expected to form by Thursday over the northern Gulf of Mexico. Storm surge and tropical storm watches issued, and heavy rainfall is expected. And I'm going to highlight that one right there. That heavy rainfall, folks, already happening. You've seen what's going on in the New Orleans area, and that is just going to continue. So let's look at the public advisory here, see what we can glean from this. It's not a depression yet. Recon will be in there, the hurricane hunters, at least they won't have to fly far. So let's look at the watches and warnings. Right now, storm surge watch in effect from the mouth of the Pearl River to Morgan City. All right, and we'll look at that on a map in just a moment. So there's potential for life-threatening storm surge. Tropical storm watch is up. We don't have a hurricane watch just yet, but I think that's going to come. Maximum sustained winds with the system around 30. You know, it's still disorganized and still trying to get its act together, etc. Forecast to be a tropical depression Thursday morning and a tropical storm Thursday night and a hurricane on Friday. So this is explicitly forecast to become a hurricane on Friday. Shower and thunderstorm activity has gradually been increasing with the with coverage and organization, and you know it's basically near 100% certainty now. That's what it says right there, that this will go on to become Tropical Storm Barry. All right, so from the mouth of the Pearl River to Morgan City, they're looking at about 3 to 5 feet of storm surge, and I think this will change over time. And remember, this is above normally dry areas. So this is the amount of water above ground. The combination of dangerous storm surge and the tide will cause normally dry areas near the coast to be flooded by rising waters moving inland from the shoreline. And the water could reach the following heights above ground, 3 to 5 feet. So I'm 5'8", so you know it would be almost over my head. So this is very important. Rainfall 6 to 12 inches, isolated areas 18 inches. I believe that these values are all going to go up as this evolves. So stay tuned for that. I'll be talking about these advisories roughly every 6 hours, even while I'm on the road. I'll get to that in just a moment. Now let's go back up and look at the maps here associated with this. This is your track map from the National Hurricane Center, and you can see this bend to the southwest over the very, very warm water of the Gulf of Mexico, well away from land, not like the 2016 system that just kind of stayed inland and caused all that flooding. This one is doing that little curve and coming back around towards southwest Louisiana in terms of the center. Now, areas east of the center, all in here, are going to have a lot of that really, really rough weather. Not as much so on the west side. It's not that there won't be any, but looking at the center forecast track, those H's and the S's, that's the core, that's the center, the low-level center. Think about the wide area, the cone. You know, the effects can extend outside of the cone. The cone of uncertainty is where the track of the center could be. It tells you nothing about the impacts. So what I want you to do is think about what's happening today, that everybody from the Florida Panhandle all the way over into parts of the upper Texas coast will probably see some kind of impacts from this system. Whether it be minimal, moderate, or high impact depends on a lot of different factors. I'm going to give you a couple of clues in just a minute on how you can extract the information that can really help you, because as you know, and maybe you're new to the area, you know, I just moved to Louisiana and this is what I have to deal with. There's a lot of information out there through social media, through regular media, television and radio, etc., newspaper, print, online, whatever. And most of it's good, but a lot of it can come at you all at once. And I'm going to try to help you glean the information that can really, hopefully, take your stress level down a little bit, at least in trying to figure out what to do for your particular situation. So that's a look at the track map from the Hurricane Center. Let's go back and see storm surge watch and warning map. So the storm surge watch is up, and that's the region that the storm surge watch covers. I believe this will change with time. We'll talk about this more later on. All right, so looking at the satellite imagery, still elongated overall, focusing the energy here. It's going to take a little bit of time, but a couple of important things. This will be a fairly small, in terms of its aerial coverage, storm. It's not going to be one of these giant hurricanes like Katrina or Rita in the Gulf of Mexico, or Ike. A smaller, more compact system, and with that comes the potential for rapid increases or decreases in intensity. Very, very important. Very quick up and down intensity changes, and unfortunately the models have trended towards up. So this could develop rather quickly once it consolidates, assuming that it does, a core. When it bundles that energy and consolidates a core, in fact I want to pull up the University of Wisconsin site, I forgot to do that. So if it consolidates its core, remember that vorticity chart, that's what I want to show you, then it's off to the races with this system, and it could really go quickly. There's the vorticity. Let's zoom in on this because that'll really help. There's the vorticity signature, much more concentrated and round now. Still has this lobe off to the east, but that will change with time. This is where the energy is focusing, right in here. And so let's watch as this evolves. I'll show this again in my update later tonight. I'll talk about my travel plans in a minute. There's the frontal system that's draped off the east coast. This piece of energy again came down out of the Midwest, and there it is. So we'll watch as this consolidates, and once it does so, assuming it does, and it probably will, the models seem to have a fairly decent grasp on the evolution of this system. So once this goes, it can ramp up very quickly, and it's likely that it'll become a hurricane and become not only a huge rainmaker, which it already is. I mean, look at all that convection, thunderstorm activity over southeast Louisiana already. As far as the Florida Panhandle goes, including the Big Bend area, not too bad of a day right now. If this can consolidate and pull the energy in, being such a small system, you folks on the western Florida Panhandle may have a much better day, because then what's going to happen, the air is coming in here and rising, and it's going to sink on the outside, what's called subsidence, around the periphery, and so you folks on the Florida Panhandle may eke out a nice end to the week. That would be good. So a little bit of positive news there. But for you folks here in portions of Mississippi over to Louisiana and maybe the upper Texas coast, it's not looking as good, obviously. All right? So again, there's the vorticity signature. We're going to really watch this closely. I will do another update this evening once I get to my hotel. I'll talk about that towards the end of the discussion here. The rainfall. This is what is very, very concerning. This too will change with time. Let's use black. The rainfall amounts here just absurd. 10 to 15 inches from the quantitative precipitation forecast analysis from the WPC here, the Weather Prediction Center. Just a big, big flood maker. Think about the lower Mississippi Valley here, all these areas that have been flooding throughout the springtime. This is just going to add to that. Major, major life-threatening flood probably going to unfold from this. We can see that represented here. Make sure I can, this is the latest map from the weather.gov map. A couple of things to note. All these oranges in here, that's your heat advisories, even excessive heat. And then down here along the coast, related to the tropical cyclone that is developing as we speak. So here's where I was telling you about what can really help you. So if you want to just boil it down and say, well, what's going to happen in my area? What do I need to know? Watches, warnings, evacuations, local officials, etc. A great resource is the biggest crowd-funded weather project in the United States, and that is, and I'm not kidding about that, you pay for it with your taxes, for those of you that pay taxes. It's true. It's the best crowdfunding there is, right? It's weather.gov, the National Weather Service. And so you go to weather.gov. You see it's right up there in my address bar. Weather.gov, and this is the map that you will see. And with that, you can then click. And so we'll click down here in southeast Louisiana. Move me out of the way a little bit. You see the radar. Wow, look at all that precip already. Luckily, it's moved out of the New Orleans proper area. This is your watch warning area. And then all of these different colors represent something over here in the legend, in the table, right? So your flood warning, that green right there that I'll highlight in yellow, has to do with the Mississippi River. So you could click on that, and it would let you know what's going on with that flood warning. Flash flood warning is for the greater New Orleans area. So any of these things here, you can click them and read it, okay? It'll tell you more information, and it's written by, for the most part, folks that live there, that work at the Weather Forecast Office over in Slidell. Bottom line is, this is your easy to understand information for that local area. All right, it's not somebody on Twitter, even me, telling you something. This is from the local source of the information. And once things really get cooking, so to speak, with potential Barry here, there will be hurricane local statements. This is about the tropical cyclone, heavy rain amounts, etc. It's all right here. So you go to weather.gov, and you can either put in your zip code in this area or a town name, Houma, Louisiana, Grand Isle, whatever. Or you can go click on the map if you're geographically inclined, and it'll give you what you need to know. And that is true for the upper Texas coast, right? And it talks about tropical stuff. I mean, this is a great, great resource, and I encourage you to take advantage of it because it'll update about every 6 hours or so, sometimes more frequently, and you have access to stuff that has no advertisements, and it's objective, helpful information by your National Weather Service, and it's written by and manned by, the people that produce this live in those regions. All right? Now, they do have national products, obviously, from the Weather Prediction Center, Storm Prediction Center, and the National Hurricane Center, but each of these weather forecast offices, Tallahassee, Mobile, Slidell, Lake Charles, etc., Houston, Galveston, those people work there. They live in those communities. So take advantage of it. I encourage that strongly. All right, so my plan is to leave southeast North Carolina here this afternoon, make my way over to Atlanta, and then eventually tomorrow down here into the Gulf Coast area. Exactly where, I don't know. It's all dependent upon, that all depends upon what, a dependent is somebody that you file on your taxes, right? Hey, I'm over there now. It all depends upon what future Barry does, okay, as to where I end up. I will tell you this. I am taking 6 of our unmanned camera systems. and 6 GoPro backup systems to back those cameras up in case we lose the network feed. I will be streaming live from my vehicle. I've rented a nice Dodge 1500, as I think I mentioned. I'll be streaming live the moment that I leave. There'll be periods where it drops out. That stream will be available to the public, free of charge, on YouTube, and I'll post that link publicly. Our patrons on Patreon, you will have access, of course, to the live feeds, our weather data. I mean, they're the ones supporting the work and helping to make it happen, and so that's the benefit that they receive. I will be reporting, though, along the way. Obviously, my number one goal is to help to serve the public and point you in the right direction for solid information. So I will be able to post some stuff, of course, on social media. But, you know, the main benefactors of supporting my work is access. And so I'll show you this here, our Patreon page. Sign up, you know, and just the $10 a month pledge, and you sign up for a month or two. It doesn't have to be every month. You can go down to $1. That's what's nice about this, is you can fluctuate it. And for me, it's sustainable income to help. I mean, look at that. We're bringing in about $1,600 a month that helps me earn a living to bring this content to you guys with 131 people. That's it. It's just 131 people. Look what we're able to do. The equipment, in fact, here's one of the boxes right here, ready to go. That's what they look like. This was paid for by those patrons, just so you know. It really was. And the rental truck, etc. So it's a big deal because it really helps me to do what I need to do to get the job done. I'll be providing information to the National Hurricane Center. I don't have any kind of a formal arrangement with them, but I'm good friends with a lot of the folks down there. They appreciate what I do, especially since it allows us to see what's going on from the cameras as well as the meteorological equipment without having to have people in harm's way. The other thing I'm going to do, speaking of meteorological equipment, I'll try to wrap this up here as we all have things to do. I've got these 2 weather stations that I'm going to set up, an anemometer and a pressure sensor that are the best that money can buy from Arm Young Corporation, and they're going to be attached to, more than likely, bridges or overpasses down there. Through this, and it's just too big to show you. I'll take some pictures as I set it up, though. This orange, what's best described as a saddle that attaches. It's normally used for roadway, highway maintenance signs or whatever, and I modified it to attach a mast and put the anemometer system and everything on the side of a bridge, on the concrete jersey wall, as it's called. One of our patrons, Scott, thank you very much, provided those. We have 4 of those units. I'm bringing 2 with me to test them. This will be the first operational test of this new mechanism, and I'm telling you, it is going to be fantastic. I will take screenshots of what that looks like, the data, and share that on social media as well. But the National Hurricane Center will be able to monitor that. They will monitor the cameras. I'll be working with their storm surge group. Again, it's not a formal arrangement, but it's this nice sort of, you know, I help them and they appreciate it. I don't get paid from them. That literally would take an act of Congress, and I don't have 10 years to wait for that. That's what crowdfunding's for. That's what the patronage and Patreon, you make all that happen. All right, so I'll be leaving this afternoon by about 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Like I said, I'll be streaming the whole way. I won't be able to monitor the chat. I just can't. I'm by myself driving, and it's just not a good idea to do that. But when I make stops and whenever, you know, I'll post things from time to time, and then I'll do an update later this evening from my hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I'll be spending the night tonight. And then tomorrow, during the day Thursday, I'll make my way to the Gulf Coast, somewhere more than likely in Louisiana. So stay tuned. If you have property along the Louisiana coast that has a view of the water, let me know about it. Send me an email. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm at HurricaneTrack. Some of the best results we've ever had has been because we worked with people that owned property that let us put a camera system on their property. Think about what we did down there in Gulf Pines for Hurricane Michael, which, by the way, you can watch all about that on Amazon. But yeah, that's very, very big when we get the help. It's not just the funding we get from people, but when they give us their house, so to speak, and say, hey, Mark, you can use our house, whatever, especially if they're going to evacuate. That's the first prerequisite. I'm not putting a camera up if you're going to stay there. I don't want to see you float away dead. That doesn't serve anybody any good. But yeah, really let me know if you have a property along the water down there. That's a swampy area. I'm going to have my work cut out for me. But think about Grand Isle, Holly Beach area, anywhere right along that very vulnerable storm surge prone area, Morgan City. Let me know. A business too. It doesn't have to be a house. A business. I'd like to hear from you. All right, let me get out of here so I can finish my prep work and get on the road again around 3 p.m. this afternoon. If you're following me on YouTube, enable notifications. I will post the link to the YouTube feed in Patreon as well, and on our HurricaneTrack Insider subscriber site, so that everybody knows what's going on. Thank you, as always, for tuning in from your device, whatever you're watching and listening to me from. I appreciate it. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I will talk to you next as I head to the Gulf Coast.